Sun's out, stores are open, and it's time to have some fun and shop. Tommy Hilfiger's ready with new classics, super comfortable essentials, weekend favorites, and more. And Hilfiger Club members get VIP benefits. So head on over to Citadel Outlets and sign up because summer starts now. See store associate for full details.
Getting families vaccinated against COVID-19 is an important step to bringing back joy for all of us. That's within reach now that the Pfizer vaccine is proven safe and effective for those 12 and older. This is the same vaccine millions of Californians have already gotten. California is even adding new vaccine clinics specifically for young people. Together, we can end the pandemic. Visit vaccinateall58.com or call 833-422-4255 to learn more.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Jeffrey Epstein Show. I'm your host, Bobbycapucci, and this is Daily Drop number 444. Well, Ghislaine Maxwell made a in-person appearance today at court, where she was arraigned. As expected, she pleaded not guilty, and the whole entire proceeding did not take very long at all. I think I was on the phone call for like 13 and a half minutes. I called in a couple minutes late, but the hearing had not started yet. So I think I was on hold for a couple of minutes, and then the hearing started, and it was very quick, very basic. Asked Ghislaine Maxwell if she had the indictment read to her, read over it with her lawyer, and if she wanted the court to read it in court again out loud. She waived that right, and then obviously she pled not guilty. There was a little bit of discussion about the time frame for the case moving forward, and Judge Nathan basically said everyone should prepare for the trial to go ahead as scheduled as of now. Now, that doesn't mean she's not going to delay it, which is very possible, and frankly, I think at this point, quite likely, unfortunately. I just have one of those weird feelings that this is going to be one of the victories that Maxwell gets, one of the very few, and this is going to get pushed back. Now, I hope I'm wrong. I mean, it certainly wouldn't be the first time that I'm wrong, but it just seems like things are lining up because it is a very complex case, right? A lot of different avenues that need to be explored. And with all of those documents, I could see how they could make an argument that the judge would buy into. Now, obviously, I'm hoping July 12th is the date that the trial starts. I think it's about time that this whole thing gets over and done with. It's been going on for decades now. These girls deserve to get in there, face down the people that they're accusing, and then get on with their lives like any one of us would want to do. And dragging it out, prolonging it, just makes it that much more of a fiasco and a burden for people who have been burdened, frankly, way too much. So Judge Nathan is, mulling it over. She hasn't decided one way or another when the trial is going to be. Well, I shouldn't say that. July 12th is the date that's on the books as of now. But according to her, it's still being mulled over if it's going to be pushed back. So we'll have to stay on top of that and see what sort of decision Judge Nathan decides to come to when it comes to the date of the trial. But there really wasn't much else, going on in that arraignment as far as on the phone call. Now, in the article we're going to read from the Daily Beast and Kate Bricklet, they go in a little bit of detail about what happened at the actual courtroom and stuff like that. Obviously, I was just in on the call. I wasn't at the actual courtroom. So let's jump into this article from the Daily Beast, and let's see what Kate Bricklet and Justin Rohrlich have to say. Headline: Ghislaine Maxwell waved at her sister in court as she pleaded not guilty to sex trafficking charges. So I guess she gave the old sis a wave while she was in court, huh? I've read some conflicting reports on that. Maybe it was a blonde friend in the back that she was waving at. I read that as well. but like I wasn't there. Either way, she waved to somebody in the courtroom. In a socially distanced, pin-drop quiet Manhattan federal courtroom on Friday, Jeffrey Epstein's alleged madam, alleged co-conspirator, alleged all-around scuzzbag, and fellow child abuser, Ghislaine Maxwell pleaded not guilty to a pair of new sex trafficking charges and waved to her sister who watched from the gallery. It must be like an odd scene in that courtroom. Imagine somebody who has lived in opulence for as long as Maxwell, somebody who has had everybody do everything for her at the drop of a dime like Maxwell, to be put in a situation such as this, where she's on display basically. And that's, make no mistake about it, folks, when you're on trial, that's basically what you are. You're on display. You might as well be in a zoo. And that's just the way it goes, right? When you're on trial and you're somebody famous especially, all eyes are on you. All eyes are on the trial. And this is no different. You add in the other elements, the elements of power, the elements of different business magnates, all of the other so-called elites that are involved in one way or the other with this. And then you add in the most disgusting fact of all, that children were involved in being abused. And yeah, you're going to have some people who are pretty interested in seeing justice be dispersed. The arraignment marked the second time reporters caught a glimpse of Maxwell, who slowly walked into court in her prison blues and white COVID mask. Ah, the prison blues. The usual outfit of the poor, right? Now, getting to have a little bit of a run on one of the so-called elite. You know, the people who thought that this system wasn't meant for them. The people who have skirted the law for all of these years with weak-ass non-prosecution agreements. And sorry-ass excuses for prosecutors and, in some instances, law enforcement officers. So, now that the shoe's on the other foot, and the justice train has finally left the station and caught up, well, how do they fit, Ghislaine? Her dark hair was down and gray roots were growing at the top. As soon as she sat at the defense table, she took a long drink out of a bottle of water. Well, I guess she's not going bald. That would have been the first thing people were talking about, right? Oh, Maxwell's bald. She's really looking rough. Oh, she's frail? Well, yeah, she's 59 years old and she's in custody. I'm pretty sure she's going to look frail. Again, being in jail is not supposed to be fun, and they're right. Maxwell's people are right when they say this. I do not wish it on my worst enemy. There's nothing funny or cool or anything about having to go to prison. And if you don't know anybody who has ever been to prison, who has ever done real time, don't worry. Very soon we're going to be talking to some people who have done real time. And they're going to tell you their stories about how they were treated by the justice system. I have a couple of my friends who have done a significant bid, in one case, a pretty long time, and they're going to come on to my new podcast when we're talking about the war on drugs, and they're going to come correct and come clean about what prison is really like when you don't have big dough. And you'll see the stark difference, folks. Reporters waited hours to spot Maxwell in what was only a minutes-long hearing. Yeah, like I was saying, it was very short. Very short, very to the point. In fact, I listened to it in my car. I had some errands to run, so I had my laptop with me thinking that I was going to have to take notes maybe, but it was very short, and honestly, I didn't even need to take notes. So it was nothing too crazy, nothing too wild. I mean, the environment was pretty wild, I'm sure, with Maxwell being there the first time, her family there, and even an accuser showing up at court as well. We're going to get to that in this article, I'm sure. Before the arraignment began, a woman who appeared to be Ghislaine Maxwell's sister, Isabel Maxwell, was whisked into the courtroom wearing a black beret, tinted shades, mask, and coat. She took notes on a small notepad once she took her seat. Yeah, I highly doubt she was taking notes. What kind of notes could you possibly take from this arraignment? Doing some scribbling maybe? Drawing some stick figures? Are you playing hangman over there? So I don't know what kind of notes you could possibly take, but okay. And I saw a picture, I think it was in the Daily Mail. I read an article about this over at the Daily Mail, and I believe that's where the picture was. But a picture of Isabel Maxwell just dressed up like, like she's wearing a burqa almost. Everything completely covered, all of it, trying to slide under the radar. Judge Allison Nathan asked Maxwell if she read the indictment and if she had time to review it with her attorney. "Yes, Your Honor," Maxwell replied softly. Her lawyer, Bobby Sternheim, then confirmed Maxwell pleaded not guilty. So we got to hear Maxwell talk just a couple of times. Then when she was asked if she read the indictment with her attorney, "Yes, Your Honor," and then she pleaded not guilty. And I believe she only spoke twice. After a discussion about discovery timelines in the case, the hearing was over. Maxwell, who appeared slim but not in poor health as her lawyers have charged, looked to Isabel, tapped below her eye, and waved before she was slowly led away. And of course she's not in the shape that her lawyers said she was in. Come on. That's a bunch of BS. They're under the microscope as well. Do you think these guys are going to do anything that's going to jeopardize not only their careers, but their freedom at this point? I bet you that the protocols that are being followed in this whole entire situation, as far as her health and everything, are way above board. Way above board. Like I said, I have news for you. Nobody was checking in on my friend. Nobody cared about him being on the main line, general population in a serious prison. Nobody gave a shit about that. But Maxwell, you got the computer, 3-4 bail attempts, appeal, got a whole website set up for her. Yeah, and she's being treated wrongly. Right. Meanwhile, Nathan told the courtroom she was still mulling whether to adjourn Maxwell's trial until next year, but instructed the defense and prosecution, for now, to plan for the scheduled July trial date. And that's what we're all going on, right? That's what I have all of my plans based on for sure. I'm flying in for the trial, and everything that I have locked in is based on this date. If it gets moved back, especially moved back into like next year, man, I doubt I'll be able to go in for the whole month. A couple weeks for sure, but a whole month next year, I just don't have the. Maybe, I won't say I can't for sure, but it's hard for me to make that commitment all the way into next year, considering the world's opening back up and stuff like that. I'm gonna have other responsibilities soon as well. But no matter what, even if it gets moved back, I'll be flying in at least for 2 weeks for the end portion of the case, sentencing and all of that stuff. That's if it gets moved back. As of now, my plan is to go in for the whole month, basically, and go in from start to finish and, follow it from in the city, on the ground, closer to where the action is, and so I don't have to rely on anybody else. Also in the gallery were lawyers Sigrid McCauley and David Boyes, who represent more than a dozen Epstein survivors. An accuser named Danielle Bensky sat with them to see the proceeding, though she is not a minor victim in the Maxwell case. After the arraignment, Boyes told reporters it's important for survivors to have the opportunity to show the court how important this prosecution is to them. And I think that is a big deal, right? It is important. I think that these girls that want to go and face Maxwell, even if they're not the ones who are being talked about in the prosecution itself, I think that they should have the right to do that. We've seen that at the Harvey Weinstein case, and I don't think it should be any different here. You know, these girls are making serious allegations against Ghislaine Maxwell.
Sun's out, stores are open, and it's time to have some fun and shop. Tommy Hilfiger's ready with new classics, super comfortable essentials, weekend favorites, and more. And Hilfiger Club members get VIP benefits. So head on over to Citadel Outlets and sign up because summer starts now. See store associate for full details.
And serious allegations deserve serious attention. So if these girls want to come and face the person that they're accusing, then they should definitely be allowed to do that. Boys told a Beast reporter that survivors of Epstein's abuse want to see Maxwell's trial proceed as rapidly as it can, as long as it's fair. Again, that's important to me too. I know a lot of people are, in tar and feather mode, and I really don't blame people for being that bent out of shape about this case. But for me, one of the main reasons I even got interested in this case was because of the two-tier justice system and how I knew it was failing us at every turn. And this case just amplified it to a degree that we have not seen in a very long time, maybe ever, folks, honestly. So I'm interested in everybody getting a fair shake. I'm interested in everybody getting time in front of the judge, getting time in front of a jury of their peers, and having a real trial like a real free nation should do. And that goes for everybody, not just Ghislaine Maxwell. I don't care if you have 2 cents. You should be afforded the right to the best defense possible. But it always comes back to the fazools, right? It always comes back to those in power, using that power one way or the other to get the upper hand. And I'm not talking about people that count their money, folks, like the rest of us. When I talk about people with money, we're not talking about people that count their money. I'm not even talking about count their money with a money counter. I'm talking about people that have so much money and so much weight, they have to weigh that shit. They don't count their money. They bundle it and weigh it like drug barons. And these are the people that are crying right now about how bad conditions are and just save it. You can miss me with all of that bullshit. I'm not from the suburbs. I never lived anywhere that could even be considered privileged. I grew up in the inner city my whole entire life. From the Bronx, New York, to South Yonkers, to smack dab middle of East Las Vegas. So you can miss me with all that crying BS about how rough things are for these people and how bad Ghislaine Maxwell has it. Especially when I know people personally who have really went through the system and have really been screwed. They want the trial as quickly as possible, boys said. This case has gone on far too long. The length of time this subject matter existed is now decades. I think all of the survivors are anxious to have it finished. And I think that's a very important point. This subject matter is literally decades old, folks. This isn't some Johnny-come-lately, we're breaking it down in real time as it happens. That's not a realm I'm ever getting involved in. There was a bunch of evidence here, a bunch of articles, things to dig into, evidence to be found, people to hear, and people that came out and talked corroborated these stories. Decades and decades of people trying to stop Epstein, these survivors coming forward, nobody listening to them all the way back to the 90s with the farmers. So yeah, it's been going on way too long. And I definitely agree, pushing the trial is not a good idea. Marshals told the Daily Beast that Maxwell was brought in early Friday morning before the crowds of protesters arrived at the courthouse. By midday, throngs of people outside waved banners. Epstein is the worst kind of virus. And one woman showed off her Virginia Roberts jacket. Hey, look, folks, if you're going to go out there, and you're going to protest or whatever, I'm all for protesting. Peaceful protest is as ingrained in who we are as Americans as you can get. But don't be stunad if you go out there, right? Don't be an idiot. Plenty of those people running around, right? No need for it. Go out there, make your voice heard. Nice sign. Epstein is the worst kind of virus. I can get down with some nice signs, some creative signs. But let this take its course. You know, don't be that guy, right? Make sure that, you know, if you're going down there, you're not going down there with the purpose to interrupt the hearing or whatever. And I know most of the people out there listening to this show and elsewhere would never even think about doing that. But, you know, there's always a couple of wackies, right? Sometimes you'll buy a box of baseball cards and you just get a pack that really, really sucks. And that's how it is with people. Sometimes people just suck. But it seems like everybody was, you know, on their best behavior and doing the right thing. And people should go out there and protest, in my opinion. And in front of the Department of Justice, too. And frankly, if I lived in Florida, I might even think about going down, doing some protesting out there. Because if you want to trace this back to the nexus and where it really got stinky real fast, go no further than Palm Beach, my friends. Maxwell's lawyer, David Oscar Marcus, told reporters that the British socialite, alleged co-conspirator and fellow child abuser and definitely general all-around scuzzbag and bipedal serpent, is hanging in there, and added, all we want is a fair fight. Yo, David Oscar Marcus, I think you're getting more than a fair fight here, bro. You guys got you're getting like a 20-week camp here, man. What do you mean you're not getting a fair fight? Do you think that the judge should just, bow down to all of your requests? And you haven't there's been no proof provided that any of your allegations as towards Maxwell's treatment are real or true. Because frankly, if somebody was abusing her in there, I would speak up about it. I wouldn't just turn the other cheek. I don't care who is in prison, folks. You got to understand me very clearly when I say this. Whoever you are in prison for whatever the crime, you have to be treated humanely. We're not a society of barbarians. So if somebody was abusing her in there, yeah, I'd want that person punished. But the whole narrative they tried to pitch about somebody in there abusing her is just straight bupkis was from the jump. I knew that was BS. Look, put a name to it. They didn't name anybody in their complaint. The second nobody was named and it was just very vague, I knew it was BS. Friday's hearing marked the second time the public got a view of Maxwell since her arrest. At her arraignment last July, the British socialite, alleged co-conspirator, general all-around scuzzbag, shed tears when U.S. District Judge Allison Nathan denied her bail because she was a substantial flight risk. Aw, wah. I can't drum up any empathy for her. I'm sorry, I just can't. You got away with this shit for decades. Part of that non-prosecution agreement. Thought you were in the clear, didn't you? Had your little UN Terra Mar project going on, hanging out with all of the stars, being invited to Jeff Bezos' little function as late as 2018, by the way. And you thought that you were just going to walk away from this, nose in the air, laughing at the rest of us. Well, guess what? Not this time. Justice is catching up to you. The wheels of justice in America, they grind slowly. But once you're in the grinder, it's grind time. Since then, Maxwell's lawyers have pushed for her release from Brooklyn's Metropolitan Detention Center, where they claim she's withering to a shell of her former self, forced to drink foul tap water, and was once allegedly manhandled by a guard. Literally none of that's true. And while I've never been in that prison and I can't vouch for the pipe situation in there, I know the tap water of New York is perfectly fine and good to drink. Every time I'm in New York, I have to remind myself not to buy bottled water, like here in Nevada, where they tested nuclear bombs. Probably not a good idea to drink the tap water in Nevada, folks, by the way. It comes from Lake Mead. Lake Mead's pretty disgusting, okay? Not dirty, but just pretty disgusting. So I avoid drinking tap water at all costs here in Nevada. But when I'm in New York, it's game on. After Nathan thrice denied Maxwell's request for bail, her lawyers turned to the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Second Circuit, which will hear oral arguments on Monday. So that's another day to mark it down on the calendar, folks, Monday. And I'm guessing there'll be another number to call into. So obviously, I'll be calling into that so that we can do a recap once again. For their part, federal prosecutors denied Maxwell was being mistreated in jail. In a recent letter to the judge, the government said video footage refuted Maxwell's claims of physical abuse, as well as claims that guards had to remind her to flush her toilet and clean her very dirty cell. Yo, they got the video. You know how you used to have the video, Ghislaine? How you guys had the whole house videoed up so that you could get your compromat? Well, shoes on the other foot. Now you're on video all the time. Enjoy the closed circuit television. So when she came out with those ridiculous claims, I thought, as you all know, I said it was BS right away. If she had legitimate gripes and she was really being abused, physically abused by guards in there, oh hell yeah, I'd freak out about that as well. Because folks, let's remember, the whole entire system is effed. A little justice here is great, and it moves the needle in the right direction, right? But we got a long hill to climb, folks. A long hill to climb. Maxwell's family has also launched a gushing website as part of their public relations campaign to garner sympathy for the embattled jet-setter, co-conspirator, alleged scuzzball, all of that. The site claims Maxwell has received hundreds of beautiful and supportive letters from strangers while incarcerated, and that her spirit is strong and she remains undaunted. Boy, she's really just a paragon of strength and virtue, isn't she? And hundreds of letters, huh? I thought she was being threatened. I thought that she was being chased down and she had to hide from the media. So I went to New Hampshire and bought $1 million hideaway. What happened to that routine? What, they think we forgot? I remember. While Maxwell wasn't charged in connection with Epstein's sex ring until last year, civil lawsuits filed by survivors have named her as a facilitator of the creepy financier pedophile's abuse. Maxwell has long denied any involvement in Epstein's scheme. Yep, she definitely has denied it, no doubt about that. But denials without evidence, well, just comes out as wind. The FBI arrested Maxwell at her New Hampshire hideaway on July 2nd, 2020, 1 year after Epstein was indicted for trafficking underage girls. Epstein killed himself, allegedly, in a jail cell a month after his arrest, shifting the focus of the investigation to Maxwell. And let's not forget the other co-conspirators. I'm not letting the federal government off the hook. If there's no prosecutions for those other co-conspirators, I want to see their witness impact statements. I want to see that they cooperated with the government at the very least. Because this is a conspiracy, folks. This is a RICO case. And all four of the core four, Indike Khan, Maxwell, and Jean-Luc Brunel, all need to be indicted. All of them. And anything short of that, the government has failed. At least in my humble opinion. The 59-year-old heiress, co-conspirator, general all-around scuzzbag, and bipedal serpent, initially faced 4 trafficking-related counts, including enticing a minor to travel to engage in illegal sex acts. Wouldn't that be the Mann Act as well? I mean, am I the only one that knows that that's on the books or something? What's going on over there, Maureen Comey and friends? We're not going to use the Mann Act? And 2 counts of perjury stemming from her 2016 deposition in a civil suit filed by Virginia Roberts, who alleges Epstein and Maxwell exploited her and kept her as their sex slave for years. So we know that we have the 2 separate issues, right? We have the lying, which is the perjury, and the actual slap you in the face charges, which are the conspiracy and the sex trafficking and the more weighty charges. According to the original indictment, Maxwell groomed 3 girls as young as 14 for Epstein between 1994 and 1997. It still disgusts me every single time I have to read that. It's disgusting. How could these people engage in this sort of behavior? She allegedly befriended the victims, survivors, and facilitated their abuse at Epstein's mansions in New York, Florida, and New Mexico, and her London townhouse. Having developed a rapport with a survivor, the indictment states, Maxwell would try to normalize sexual abuse for a minor survivor by, among other things, discussing sexual topics, undressing in front of the survivor, being present when a minor survivor was undressed, and or being present for sex acts involving the minor and Epstein. I mean, really? This is the kind of person that you're going to get up there and try and tell me is innocent of these charges without offering any evidence? Look, we're not talking about something that's not serious here, folks. And we're not talking about something that is just conjecture at this point. We're talking about heaps and heaps and heaps of, at the very least, circumstantial evidence. The complaint adds, in some instances, Maxwell was present for and participated in the sexual abuse of minors. Last month, the feds added 2 more charges against Maxwell and a 4th minor survivor to their case. The latest superseding indictment alleges Maxwell trafficked a 14-year-old girl for Epstein from 2001 to 2004. Prosecutors claim Maxwell paid the teen hundreds of dollars in cash, encouraged her to recruit other underage, air quotes, masseuses for Epstein, and sent her gifts including lingerie from an address in Manhattan to her Florida home. A 14-year-old girl sending her lingerie. You sick, disgusting bastards. So yeah, Maxwell, in my opinion, you're exactly where you belong. You're a menace to society, lady. Maxwell now faces 80 years behind bars if convicted. Her lawyers have asked to postpone her trial until early 2022. So 80 years, her goose is cooked, right? It's a life sentence. Definitely a life sentence. Unless one of her buddy scientists comes through with some kind of new eugenics move or DNA swap or whatever the hell these sick bastards are working on. Whatever chimera they're working on. Nathan ruled last week that Maxwell would be tried separately for the perjury count sometime after she faces a jury for the trafficking charges. At Maxwell's arraignment last summer, 2 survivors shared statements with the court and asked the judge to keep Maxwell behind bars pending trial. And I think that was very impactful when they did that. You know, look, these are the people who are the most impacted by this, the people who really have to carry the burden. So when they speak out on it, especially in court, it has a very large effect, in my opinion. One assistant U.S. attorney read the words of Jane Doe, who said, "Without Ghislaine, Jeffrey could not have done what he did. She was in charge. She egged him on, and she encouraged him. She told me of others she recruited, and she thought it was funny. I have fear speaking here today, even anonymously," Doe said, adding, "I know what she has done. I know how many lives that she has ruined, And because I know this, I know she has nothing to lose, has no remorse, and will never admit what she has done. Powerful statement, folks. Very powerful statement. So the fight is on, right? The battle is on for the court date, and Ghislaine Maxwell is in severe jeopardy, in my opinion here, folks, of spending the rest of her life behind bars. If you'd like to contact me, you can do that at bobbycapucci@protonmail.com. That's BOBBYCAPUCCI at protonmail.com. You can also find me on Twitter at BOBBY_CAPUCCI. All of the links that go with this episode can be found in the description box. All right, folks, I will be back tomorrow morning, and we'll try and sort out whatever sort of mess is staring us in the face. Have a great night tonight, everyone. And remember, if you're going out tonight, going out, having some drinks, having a smoke, whatever it is, depending on where you live, do it responsibly, all right? I want to make sure all of you are here tomorrow for the show. So, folks, have a great night, and I will talk to you all tomorrow.
Sun's out, stores are open, and it's time to have some fun and shop. Tommy Hilfiger is ready with new classics, super comfortable essentials, weekend favorites, and more. And Hilfiger Club members get VIP benefits. So head on over to Citadel Outlets and sign up because summer starts now. See store associate for full details.
Get more out of summer when you get more from the Home Depot and trusted brands like Behr Paint. Beat the summer heat by taking on a paint project indoors. And keep things cool with 4th of July savings on paint and all the supplies you need. We're making sure now is the perfect time to give your home a refresh. How cool is that? 4th of July savings, only from the Home Depot. How doers get more done.